So in this value added to video, we're only covering two things. We're covering insights pages and we're covering dashboards. But as you'll see, those are two of the most powerful value adds of the climate web, representing decades of work in the field and representing thousands of hours of knowledge curation within the climate web itself. So let's start with insights pages. There are more than 500 insights pages in the climate web, each of them tackling a particular topic, each of them synthesizing the discussion, the literature around that topic based on our 30 plus years of working in this space. So the idea of insights pages is to help you rapidly come up to speed on a topic. And then the insights page will also point you to the relevant index entries, to other resources in the climate web that you might find particularly relevant. Now, as I mentioned, there are literally 500 plus insights pages in the climate web. Here is a very small selection. Individual versus collective action, risk as uncertainty, changing my social media behavior, will direct air capture play an important role, business risks associated with a low carbon transition, the psychology of climate change, clouds and climate change, hydrogen as climate solution, expected change versus climate risk, forecasting carbon prices. You get the idea. There are lots of insight pages here, and this is just a very narrow slice of the universe of insights pages. And now I'm going to go ahead and give you just a glance at some of this subset of insights pages. So if we bring the notes field back into play here, I can hover over individual insight page thoughts, internal carbon pricing, impacts at 4 degrees, how much change are we expecting? What about having fewer children as a strategy? Greenwashing as business risk, the prospect of global food shock. Are renewable energy certificates the same as offsets? Accounting for systemic risk, a sampling of sea level rise, visualizations. You get the idea. Each of these insights pages lets you access a lot of content based on a lot of work on our part. There are more than 500 of these insight pages in the climate web. So it's a pretty amazing resource for open access and premium access users. The second topic of this video is dashboards. Dashboards are an extremely high value deliverable in the climate web. What dashboards represent is the idea that we've identified key topics, key questions. There are more than 500 dashboards in the climate web, and we then pull together information from around the climate web to populate that dashboard to help you come up to speed very rapidly on some topic, some question. But there are many kinds of dashboards, as you'll see. So for example, carbon pricing for the 1.5 and 2 degree centigrade targets. So this dashboard basically says, okay, if you're interested in that question, here's the insights page. Here are the index entries. Here are the topical headings. Here are some key graphics. Here are some key ideas, some key sources. Here's what will rapidly bring you up to speed on the topic of carbon pricing for the 1.5 and 2 degree targets. Here's a very different approach to dashboards, a chronology of the oil sector and climate change. So here it starts in 1957 with Exxon scientists working on climate change, 1957, mind you. And then it walks you through sort of key events, key dates between then and today associated with the oil sector and climate change. There are a number of such chronologies in the climate web, but they really help you get an understanding of how different topics have evolved over time. A completely different dashboard, in this case, comparing nature-based solutions mitigation potentials. So what this dashboard is doing is looking at 3 different studies. You can see them at the far right there. One is a publication of mine from 1994. One is a publication of Griscom, 2017. And one is Project Drawdown's work, which you're probably somewhat familiar with. This is simply saying, okay, let's compare these 3 studies and what they said about what the potential of nature-based solutions might be from a climate change mitigation perspective. So it's simply being able to compare numbers across multiple studies without your having to actually read all of those studies and try and put together all the numbers. Now, I just mentioned Project Drawdown. You're probably familiar with Project Drawdown. There's a lot in the climate web about Project Drawdown. This particular dashboard simply says, hey, let's take a look at what Project Drawdown says the potential for all of its different technologies actually is. Starting from at the far upper left corner, micro wind, about only 200 million tons. And then at the far right, you get into refrigerants and onshore wind, reduced food waste, plant-rich diet, family planning, educating girls, all at 60 billion tons and up. So again, just a way of taking a lot of different numbers, organizing them in a very easy to view way. That's the purpose of this particular dashboard. Another dashboard focused on the topic of evaluating a 100% renewables future. How fast can we do it? Can we do it? There's a lot of debate around this topic. This dashboard simply brings you up to speed on that conversation, points you to some of the key topical headings, some of the key reports, key news and opinion pieces, key graphics for understanding the idea of a 100% renewables future, key ideas, etc. So again, simply pulling together resources from around the climate web to help you rapidly think about and come up to speed on the idea of a 100% renewables future. And last but not least, here is a dashboard simply pointing you to a bunch of nature-based solutions, which then open up into their own knowledge bases in effect. So by clicking on the different solutions, you can go to bamboo production or biochar production or conservation agriculture or managed grazing or halophytes or perennial staple trees, a plant-rich diet, rights of nature, tropical forest restoration. These are all nature-based solutions. This dashboard simply makes it very easy for you to access whichever of these nature-based solutions you might want to dig in more deeply. And so that wraps up this second value-added video. And now we'll go back in the third value-added video to how we pull all of this together to help you get a really big picture view of climate change and some additional value-added aspects of the climate web.